time to be with us in this enlightening G20S20 One Day Skill India Conclave 2023. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. May I have the honor of inviting our worthy dignitaries for lighting the lamp to mark the beginning of the program. Now, I would like to invite Professor Lakshmidhar Behra, Director, IIT Mandi, Dr. Vinita Agrawal, Executive Member, National Council for Vocational Education and Training, Dr. Neeta Pradhan Das, Journal Manager, Strategy and Future of Work, National Skill Development Corporation, Professor Manish Jain, Center of Creative Learning, IIT Gandhinagar, Dr. Rita Sharma, Director, State Council of Educational Research and Training, Professor Inderdeep Singh, Head Department of Design, Indian Institute of Technology, Roorkee, and Dr. Akbar Ali, Dayal Bagh Educational Institute, Agra, on the stage for lighting the lamp. All the dignitaries to be seated and request our respected director sir to welcome the audience with his kind address. Director sir, Professor Lakshmidhar Behra.
लिस्ट कहाँ पे? ठीक. Welcome everyone. A warm greetings to all of you. On behalf of IIT Mandi, for this day, weather has not been very kind to us. Many are stuck on the other side. There are a lot of landslide all along the way. Some important guests also, they could not catch the flight. But anyway, we will have our chief guest today, Deputy CM of Himachal Pradesh, Sri Mukesh Agnihotri ji. He has already reached Mandi. He will be here by 11 o'clock. So I again thank all our guest speakers today, Dr. Vinita Agrawal, Dr. Neeta Pradhan Das, Dr. Rita Sharma, Professor Manish Jain, Professor Inderdeep Singh, Dr. Akbar Ali, and all of you, the my faculty colleagues, students, delegates, I wish you a very pleasant discussion today on Skill India. This is our third day in this G20S20 meet. We have taken a very bold step to extend our facilities for training the young boys and girls all around, and specifically from Himachal Pradesh, of course, because we are here. And last 1 year, we have already trained more than 2,000 youth, and I am told by the CC head that out of 2,000, 70% people have already got job. Skill India is meant for Atmanirbhar Bharat. We need skill. And the skill is very important because once you have a skill, you know how to be engaged. You can start your own setup as well. I will give a perspective what we are going to do in Skill India. One is that we train our young people in varieties of areas, including robotics, AI, machine learning, and other areas where there are enough job opportunities. But in addition to that, we have to look at sustainable development and creating jobs in those sectors where sustainable development is possible. United Nations have 17 parameters for sustainable development, and we need to look at these parameters very seriously. We have taken some steps to set up Sustainable Development Center here, and there, out of many verticals, we have some significant verticals like bioenergy, climate control agriculture, biomedicine, and of course, that Sustainable Development Center also, one of the pillar is job creation, and particularly job creation in rural setting. We have already started a program in climate control agriculture where the young people can come, get trained, get certified, and they can start their own setup for climate control agriculture. They, within a bigha of land, which is 1/5 of an acre here, you can have a setup where 12 months in a year, you can produce food and feed people. You know that one of the two unsolved problem with all our progress in technology and science within the schemes of United Nations, two prominent problems still unsolved are food security and food safety. India as a nation has not achieved food security. It cannot feed its 1.4 billion people. We still depend on many of these many of the food resources for the outside world. We import oil, import many things we import. And of course, food safety. I was given a data long back, 5-6 years back, that every day we have 65 lakh liters or 65 lakhs liters of milk being sold in our market every day. But out of that, India actually produces 13 lakh liters. Whether it is lakh or million, I know I'm just, but the ratio is correct. That means 500% adulteration in milk. And of course, all milk product. Food safety. It is something so important for our well-being that we are not able to cater to the need. Quality, we are not able to provide quality food. There is no food safety. It's not only adulteration in milk and milk product, that includes ghee. Literally, you won't get a brand ghee that is unadulterated. Very rarely you will get. I was in Jhansi 10 years back in a specific area near Kalpi, the village near to Yamuna. And there they grow a specific dal. It looks like arar dal, but it's not an arar dal. It's a wild dal, and they mix with arar dal. You can imagine what is the consciousness of the people. Just to make some profit, they can add these things into the food. But this is not a phenomena that's there only in India, it's all across. But the idea is that being from technological institute, we need to develop methodologies. I have been telling here, I have in SCI, a human computer interface. I have been telling them, develop sensors by which you can tell whether the food is proper or not. The plastic food has entered in a big way into our gamut of food stuff, including rice, sabji, and China is the biggest contributor to this plastic-based food stuff. And as a technological institute, we need to address this problem because food safety is becoming a critical issue in India specifically. So in that note, of course there are many, we want to start, actually Ministry of Education has shown kind of a interest that IIT should get involved in vocational education. Although we take students through highly competitive examination, advanced JEE, but we must also reach out to those who are underprivileged. How do we empower them and make them job ready? So given that, we will be getting our BOG permission to start BVOC program, and we will be talking about this Bachelor of Vocation. We have my own colleague, Professor Kalra. He is the director of the Albag Educational Institute. We are going to collaborate in this also, and Dr. Vinita Agrawal, our mom, is here, and we should work together to make our upcoming BVOC program very successful. So there are so many opportunities, Skill India, and particularly I would like to have a Skill India for development of rural growth. Today, our Virendra Vijay, Dr. Virendra Vijay from, no, sir, not today, so this is the next day. Okay, so thank you all for listening, coming to this program on Skill India, and we look forward to all your deliberations, and in particularly how we make our young India skilled, competitive, and job ready. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your kind welcome address. Now, I would like to request IT team to play the video of Journey of IIT Mandi. How beautifully the memories have been captured from the very initial stage till today. परिंदों को मंजिल मिलेगी हमेशा, ये फैले हुए उनके पर बोलते हैं, वही लोग रहते हैं खामोश अक्सर, ज़माने में जिनके हुनर बोलते हैं. The Skill India mission, initiated by the government in 2015, aims to empower the country's youth by equipping them with the necessary skills to enhance their employability and overall productivity by developing specific skill sets. The National Education Policy 2020 places significant emphasis on skill-based education, enhancing entrepreneurship and service skills among Indian youth. The campaign seeks to cultivate practical industry skills in alignment with the vision of making India self-reliant, Atmanirbhar. IIT Mandi is dedicated to nurturing skilled professionals in various fields such as sustainable development, climate-controlled agriculture, AI and robotics, drone technology, cloud computing, cyber physical systems, manufacturing and automation. This contributes to national initiatives like Make in India and fulfills the vision of our esteemed Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi to establish India as the skill capital of the world. The Skill India theme at the G20S20 meeting held at IIT Mandi provides a platform for diverse and influential delegates from the public and private sectors to come together for keynote addresses and panel discussions. Let's warmly welcome our esteemed guest on stage, Dr. Vinita Agrawal, Executive Member, National Council for Vocational Education and Training, Ministry of Skill Development, Government of India, formerly Director General, National Skills Development Agency, and Senior Economic Advisor, Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, Government of India. Of the 35 years of service as a member of Indian Economic Service, over 28 years were in the social sector at senior position in skills, education, labor, and women. Constantly engaged in policy and legislation formulation, implementation, and monitoring of government programs. Dr. Vinita Agrawal.
Good morning, everyone. It's a great pleasure for me to be a part of this event on Skill India as part of the G20 program. So there, as Director had mentioned, there are a number of initiatives that has been taken by the government for making Skill India. The Skill India mission was launched by the government in 2015, and a number of steps have been taken since then. So looking at the time constraint, I thought I will touch upon one of the most recent initiative that has been taken by the government, and that is going to touch the lives of all our students, all our learners, without any age restriction. So what we talk about is lifelong learning. That is the National Credit Framework that has been recently launched by the government. So I thought I'll touch upon that and discuss that in detail. So as we all know that the National Education Policy came in 2020. So before that, I would like to mention that I had the fortune in, say, early 1990s, middle of 1990s, I used to be Deputy Secretary in the Ministry of Education. And by chance, I was made in charge of vocational education. I didn't know that my journey in Skill India and Skill Ministry will also be there at that time. So that time it had just started, the vocational education program. And it was introduced as a separate stream in the classes, 11th and 12th. So actually we had created a class. We had an academic stream and we had a vocational stream. And the schools at that time were really not equipped to handle any vocational education program. So the journey started, and actually there were no progression pathways, and I used to receive letters from some students who said, "You've ruined our lives. We don't know what to do after this. It's a dead end for us." So since 1992-93 to 2023, of course it's been a long journey and a lot of changes have come about and things have improved. But the National Education Policy is totally transformative because it removes all those barriers that were faced at that time. It talks about integration of education with skills. It talks about removing any kind of distinction between the two, multiple entry and exit, so that if you want to move within and between vocational and general education, you can do so. And very importantly, it talks about assignment, accumulation, storage, and transfer of credits in the academic bank of credits. So there is basically a focus on lifelong learning. So the National Credit Framework was developed to implement the vision of the National Education Policy. And very interestingly, it has been developed as a joint effort between all the regulators, education and skill regulators of the country. So whether it is UGC or AICTE, NCVT, CBSE, NCRT, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Skill Development, everybody has been a part of this NCRF development. So in a nutshell, what NCRF talks about is integrating vocational skills, academics, and also experiential learning. So it takes into account even experiential learning for allocation of credits. And all it seeks to implement, all that I mentioned, is there envisioned in the National Education Policy. The main thing, the entire concept is actually in this diagram. It looks a little complicated and intimidating, but it is not so. I'll just explain in a while. So it has 3 axes. On the x-axis, we have the academics. On the y-axis is the skills, and the z-axis is actually the experiential learning. So first time, all these 3 have been integrated. Now, what is the academic axis? If we look at it, it has been divided into 8 levels, level 1 to 8. And up to level 4 is school education. And from 4 to 8 is higher education. So when you reach class 5, you get level 1. When you reach class 8, you get level 2. And after that, for every year of learning, you add 0.5 level. So which means class 9 is 2.5, class 10 is level 3, and so on till level 4. And when you come to level 4.5, it is UG first year. 5 is UG second year. 5.5 third year UG. And if you have done an honors course or you are in a BE program, it becomes level 6. Level 7 is postgraduate and 8 is PhD. So this is your academic. And these are NCRF levels which are based on cumulative years of learning. On the y-axis, as I said, is the skills axis, which is based on the National Skills Qualification Framework, which is a competency-based framework. It defines everything in terms of learning outcomes. That has also been aligned totally to NCRF, so it also has 8 levels. If you see on the right side, all the entry requirements have also been formulated in accordance with the academics, so that the mobility between academic and vocational stream becomes easy. Then the third part, which is the most important part, which has never been done in the past, is the experiential learning. So that we have divided it into 4 parts. There is trained, proficient, expert, and master. If you have done a training program, you are trained. If you put in 1 to 4 years of work, you are proficient. And if you have done, say, 4 to 7 years, you are expert, and more than that, a master. But this is something which the regulators can define on their own. This is only a concept and an enabling framework. So I've already talked about the salient features. Only 2 more things I'd like to add. So it says that in every year, there will be 1200 hours of learning. And UGC, for all its programs, school education and vocational education, everybody is agreed on this level, that 1 year means 1200 hours of learning, and it will translate into 40 credits in a year, and that means 30 hours is equivalent to 1 credit. And if somebody can do more than that, then that is also possible. Then the most important part is that the credit framework enables creditization of all forms of learning. So it is not only classroom learning, it is vocational, practical, online, it could be your sports, it could be music, yoga, any activity that you undertake, social work, community service, anything, but the only thing is that it should be assessed at the end of it to be able to get credits. So like if you look at it, I think I've gone back, sorry. So there are only 2 important things. Everything can be creditized, but there are only 2 important things that you have to keep in mind. One, that the learning outcomes of every activity have to be defined in advance, and then you have an assessment which says whether these learning outcomes have been achieved. Based on that, credits can be accorded. And as I said, relevant experience and proficiency levels will also earn credits, and whether it is online, physical, blended, everything will earn credits. But the regulators and autonomous institutions like IIT Mandi or any other such institution, they can define how many credits they are going to accept, say from academic, skill or experiential learning for any program. So that will be, so this, as I said, is only an enabling framework. Provisions are available, usko kaise implement karna hai, that can be left to the, that has been left to the regulators and the autonomous institutions. This is only a concept for the relevant experience, how you can creditize it. And this is only indicative. Regulators can do it according to their own concept, anything they can do. Here what we have just said, that maximum a person who is trained until you become a master, maximum you can double your credits from where you started. You cannot go beyond that. So the multiplication factor has been put according to that 0.33, but again that can be decided by the autonomous institutions. And also it has provisions like informal learning, non-formal learning, skilling, upskilling, traditional heritage skills like we have, everything can be creditized. And very importantly, if somebody is a national or international achiever, say in sports, Indian knowledge system, music, that can also be creditized. Now, how does that happen? Suppose somebody has achieved or excelled in sports, and if you want to get a degree, so that 50% of credits that comes from vocational education can be obtained through your proficiency in, say, sports, that will be recognized, and the rest of the 50% can come through academics, and you can get a degree at the end of it. Then there are also special provisions in the credit framework for recognizing exceptional learners. So suppose there are exceptional learners, gifted children, you don't have to go through the entire 1200 hours of learning. You can just be assessed against the learning outcomes and get credits for that. Then hackathons, Olympiads, recognition of prior learning. In India, we have a large number of people. We have only about 4% formally trained people. So most of them have learnt by doing. So if you want to recognize their skills, then that is possible through our benchmarked NSQF standards. And then once they reach that level, they can actually get into the formal education system. And that is what the NEP also talks about. Then another important concept that is there is that accumulation of credits can happen only within a particular academic band. And what is that academic band? If you look at these bold lines, this is the academic band. That means the band at which you need to have a formal assessment. For instance, अगर आपको क्लास 12 में जाना है तो 10th का एग्ज़ाम देना ही है. अगर आपको अंडरग्रेड में जाना है तो 12th का एग्ज़ाम आपको पास करना ही है. So the movement, accumulation of credit can be either within the same band or for obtaining eligibility for the next higher band. Now this is for academic equivalence. So how academic equivalence is proposed to be done. So this is again a concept which can be expanded, which can be worked out independently in collaboration with other organizations. Suppose you have a 12th class certificate. So you can either come through a normal 12th class study, you can study through NIOS, that is open school. You can be a 10th class pass and you can put in 2 years of ITI after 10th and do a language course through NIOS, you can get a 12th class certificate. आप 10th करने के बाद 2 साल का 3 years diploma में you have completed 2 years, then it is possible to get a 12th class certificate. आपने 10th किया, उसके बाद short term courses किए 3.5 and 4 level पर and you get credits for that, तो NIOS के साथ मिलके उसके लिए भी आप 12th का certificate ले सकते हैं. So these kind of provisions have been enabled in the NCRF. Then multiple entry and exit, like an BVOC program for instance. So we are saying that after first year, if some child exits, then you can get a certificate. I know अभी 6 महीने के बाद certificate का provision है, but now that has been changed in the NCRF. So after the first year, you can get a certificate. If you exit after the second year, you'll get a diploma, and if you exit after the third year, of course, you get a degree. And also, we are also contemplating, and this is being discussed with UGC, that if a child drops out after say first year, now the child will enter the world of work without any actual skills. So we are also thinking that it will become mandatory for a child to do a employability skills module before you get your certificate, so that when you enter the job market, you have certain basic skills. Then for masters, it is already there that you can do a 2-year program for masters, or you can have a 1-year master's program if you've done 4 years BE, BSc or BA program, and you can have an integrated program also. Also there is, these are only indicative. This is what we have thought of as example. Suppose M.Tech program में अगर 1 साल के बाद बच्चा drop out करता है, maybe you can give a M.Voc degree to that child. So these possibilities have been enabled in the credit framework. So this is an example of a student's journey. I thought an example will make it clear. That suppose there is a girl, Ananya, who has done 10th grade and she enrolls in a 2-year ITI program. So she can move to B, which means she completes her ITI and she undertakes 1 additional language course which gives her a 12th class pass certificate. So this is academic equivalence being done. Then she can move to C, that means she enrolls in a UG program of IT. That means after getting that certificate, she actually becomes eligible. Although she's come from a vocational route, she becomes eligible for a BSc program, a UG program in IT engineering from a regular university. अब 4 साल की जगह उसने 3 साल के बाद exit किया, and she goes and starts working in an IT company. So she hasn't really completed her UG program, but she starts working after 3 years. So then she can move on to, while she is working, she also does say 2 short-term courses. एक NSQF aligned है, which is National Skills Qualification Framework aligned, और दूसरा non-NSQF aligned है. And then she wants to get now credits and get her degree. So जो भी उसने credits earn किए, she will get credits for that 4 years of working. She will get credits for the NSQF aligned short-term course, not the non-NSQF aligned course. And after that, the university asks her, looks at her credits and asks her to appear for an exam. Assessment होगा. उस assessment, if she clears that assessment, she gets a UG degree. What she had dropped out earlier, she now gets a UG degree at the end of it. Then she enrolls in the PG program, and she, in the last year, final year में project work की जगह, she does a short-term course in blockchain. Now that is also possible. And then she is able to complete a PG program. Let me tell you that AICT has allowed this कि जो उनका final year उनका program है in engineering or any other course, that instead of project work, students कोई short term course कर सकते हैं in any of the future skills courses. So that will make them better equipped for the future. Similarly, recognition of prior learning अगर हम देखें, तो अगर कोई बच्चा prior learning के साथ आता है, उसका भी इसी तरह, अगर if they've done some courses along the journey, then they can get an assessment done and they can clear the same, and they will become eligible to get into the formal school of learning. So here let me mention that that means what we are trying to say is that वो किसी भी जगह से, किसी भी stream से, they can get a certificate for academic education by recognizing their credits, by undertaking an assessment, but every institution can have their own entrance program. They can always define the eligibility conditions. Like they can say that you have to undergo a test, or they can say that we will recognize so many credits for a particular program. So that is left to the autonomous institutions. So NCRF सिर्फ एक enabling framework है which opens up a lot of opportunities. So the way forward is that NCRF has been notified by the UGC in April 2023, and the other regulators have also adopted it. And integration, like we said, of skills and academics has already started happening. It is expected that in this academic year itself, this will be launched, and schools may, colleges may, everywhere now vocational courses are being offered to be taken up as part of their own programs, respective programs. And very interestingly, even industry and OEMs, now they are coming forward. They want their training programs, like for instance Red Hat. They offer a number of very high globally accepted programs. So they are also coming to NCVT to get their courses recognized, so that anybody who is undergoing training in those courses gets credits for that, which can be used for further learning. And institutions like IIT Guwahati had approached us to become an awarding body, so that they can run short-term programs, creditize them, and they could be, like director himself had mentioned, that not only you have programs for IIT which are very competitive, your infrastructure can be opened up for other students who are coming from outside, and those who are coming from outside, they can utilize the infrastructure, do some short-term courses, and therefore you can actually be contributing to the future development of the society and these students. A lot of universities, skill universities, states, they are becoming awarding bodies, and awarding bodies are those who are actually imparting skill training. They are awarding bodies. And even organizations like Pearson VUE, who are well-known assessment agency globally, they are also becoming recognized as assessment agencies for India. So all regulators and autonomous institutions, I know IITs are already implementing a credit framework, I think from many years, and there's a lot of learning to be had from IITs. IIT Delhi had made a presentation on how they are already implementing the credit framework for many years, but NCRF opens up a lot of more other opportunities. It talks about multidisciplinary courses also. So let the student decide their own trajectory, learning trajectory, if they want to do some other short-term courses, they want to have a more wide range of subjects that can be offered to them. So all those possibilities are there. So I would urge that all autonomous institutions should therefore start developing guidelines for operationalization of national credit framework, because this will open up a lot of opportunities for our learners. And like very much that happens in the West, in the US and all, where students अपने आप decide करते हैं उनको क्या पढ़ना है. If they don't like something, they can, the credits can be transferred, say from one institution to another, from one subject to another. There can be international mobility also. There can be mutual exchange of students also. अगर एक कोर्स यहाँ से किया है, उसके credits बाहर की कोई institution accept करती है, so वो भी possible होना चाहिए. So all those possibilities are there as part of the national credit framework. So with that, I'll end my presentation, and later on, if there'll be any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Thank you. Sorry. Yeah. Can you use a mic? It's not very clear. Can you use a mic?
हाँ, थैंक यू
जी.
मेरा प्रश्न है कि हम लोग जब रेगुलर एजुकेशन लेते हैं तो दो एजुकेशन में हम एक साथ ज्वाइन कर सकते हैं न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी में, लेकिन क्या प्राइवेट में भी हम दो कोर्स प्राइवेट एक साथ कर सकते हैं? सपोज एमए दो एक साथ कर सकते हैं क्या?
एमए एक साथ दो, आई डोंट थिंक ऐसा कोई प्रावधान है. यूजीसी ने ये कहा है कि आप दो पैरेलल कोर्सेज कर सकते हो, बट पैरेलल कोर्सेज में कि अगर आप एक मास्टर्स कर रहे हैं उसके साथ आप कुछ एडिशनल कोर्स करना चाहते हो, जैसे मैंने बताया 40 क्रेडिट्स इन अ ईयर, लेकिन आप मे बी 4 क्रेडिट का कोई और एडिशनल कोर्स करना चाहते हो, कोई पैरेलल कोर्स करना चाहते हो, तो वो कर सकते हो. बट एमए दो साइमल्टेनियसली एमए करना, ऐसा तो अभी कुछ ऐसा सोचा नहीं गया.
ठीक, थैंक यू.
Is it okay? Thank you.
Thank you for the wonderful talk, ma'am. It's now time to felicitation. Ma'am, I request you, please come on the stage for felicitation. I request Professor Lakshmidhar Behra, Director IIT Mandi, to the stage and honor Dr. Vinita Agrawal, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. It is with great pleasure and honor that we welcome to the stage our next esteemed guest, Dr. Neeta Pradhan Das, General Manager, Strategy and Future of Work, National Skill Development Corporation. She has been a part of the skilling ecosystem in India over two decades, working with organizations like Confederation for Indian Industry, Delhi, and Entrepreneurship University, and now the National Skill Development Corporation. She has been a key contributor in building the National Policy on Skill Development 2009 and 2011. Dr. Neeta is taking forward the NSDC Future of Work. Let's warmly welcome our esteemed guest on the stage for a talk on developing future skills for inclusive growth. Dr. Neeta Pradhan Das.
A very good morning to everybody. Thank you so much for being here, braving the weather, and making time to understand and listen to what we have to say and what we have to, request in terms of collaboration. So firstly, I'd like to thank Dr. Pera, Dr. Sonali, Dr. Tushar Jain, and AVM, Mr. P.K. Sinha, VSM, Director IIT Mandi iHub, for allowing us to speak today at such an important, I wouldn't call that an event, but an interaction. So thank you so much, IIT Mandi, for having us here and all the warmth and hospitality that you've given us. Now, I'm representing an organization called the National Skill Development Corporation. How many of you have heard of it? Thank you. I think there are quite a few who haven't heard of it. It's a unique organization that is in a public-private partnership mode that has been there to serve the government's mission as well as the private sector's mission on Skill India. So if I'm to actually put this up on the screen for you to say, where are we in this whole architecture of skill ecosystem? So NSDC is into policy making, programs, and schemes as well. So while we develop, we also encourage private sector as well as government sector bodies to implement the schemes as well. So Dr. Agrawal spoke about NEP. So we are actively working towards integration with the education system. For very long, I think, vocational, and we had a very interesting conversation in the morning with Professor Gandhi, that why is vocational out of the system still? So I think here is where our inclusiveness starts, actually. If Dr. Agrawal mentioned the NCRF, that is, I think, the first form of inclusiveness that we are looking at in the skill ecosystem. For a very long time, we've had academics, we've had vocational education as two different streams. But at the end of the day, when we even get into a nursery class, we have a skill in there as well, the learnings that we have. So in the morning I had a discussion with the Ambuja group, where this is my personal belief and a very strong belief that I don't believe in the word unskilled. I don't think any of us are unskilled. We can be untrained, we can be semi-skilled, but we can't be unskilled. We are born on this earth with a skill. So I think that is really the essence of inclusion that we want to take ahead. So integration with education through NEP is becoming a reality, and I think we must thank the Government of India for the progressive thoughts. Now, the other area that the skill ecosystem is, really there is a need for it is the capacity building of our trainers, of our teachers. We always have a gaping, a hole in it because we don't have enough of teachers and trainers. So we need to scale them. We need to capacity build what is existing and also scale up for the new skills that are coming, which I will speak to you in a while. Then there is financing solutions also that NSDC provides. Because when we started this journey way back in 2008 and 2009, NSDC was born, private sector was not investing. If you look at skill development, it has a very long gestation period. It is, say, if I have to compare it to education, we study and we move out into the market. And nobody really asks us, did we get into a college? What did we do after that? But in skills, I think we need to have, it's a job-oriented professional course that we look at. So we have to have the service of a job. So if we are to do service to the nation, I think that is the fulfillment that we need to look at. So when private sector was not investing, we understood the reasons for it. So NSCC came in as a financing solution for the private sector as well. We understand their pain as well to say, they don't have such long gestation periods right now. So this is also another area that NSDC provides for when we have to look into the skill ecosystem. Skill advisory, since we are, very well integrated with all that is happening around us, so we are in a position, we feel, that we would give you the best advice when it comes to the skill ecosystem. And quality management, I think we've had many long conversations over breakfast today. We've had conversations with, people around us, that what we really need in our skill ecosystem is quality. And how do we manage that? So we as an organization ensure that whatever is happening in the system today, there is a lot of monitoring, evaluation, feedback, and finally we need to build quality in to get that acceptance of a skill certificate or now a skill degree. Then we have thought leadership. So Dr. Agrawal was here. She's one of the thought leaders we have in the country. We have Dr. Rita Sharma, who's going to be speaking to you in a while. So we have, a very good pool of leaders who advise us, who we interact with regularly, and also we build thought leaders, because the generation of today, which will lead our country forward. So you all are the thought leaders. So we have a lot of, I think, technocrats already sitting here. We have a lot of budding technocrats. So you all need to be a part of this system. So how do we build this system together is what we look at. And everybody is welcome to give us suggestions to take the skill ecosystem forward. And Industry Connect, I think this is really the holy grail for us. Because without industry, we do not have skills. Where do our children go? Even if you say an entrepreneur, the entrepreneur also finally is amalgamated in a sector or an industry and has to follow the norms of the industry. So that's how we look at our journey and digital platforms. I think that's what now India needs. We are building thousands of content. We are collaborating with edutech companies. Some of you sitting here might open one very soon. So please feel free to discuss your thoughts, because we are very happy to take new thoughts and also strengthen what you already have. So in terms of the NSDC's universe, I'm sorry I'm getting into detail because I see a lot of you are not aware of what NSDC is all about. So within the ecosystem, we have around 2,500 plus qualification packs that we call. And we have 1,900 model curriculums, 1,500 plus online courses, 36 sector skill councils. This is a very lengthy discussion, so I'm not getting into the details, and 27 country partnerships. So within the network, we have 13,000 plus schools, 700 plus model skilling centers, 72,000 plus skilled teachers, which is not enough, is what we are saying still, and 46,000 plus skill assessors. In terms of outreach, we've reached around 30 million candidates, 1.2 million apprentices, not enough for the country again. 2.2 million online subscribers, 1 million entrepreneurs oriented, and 35,000 plus employers. Now, these numbers sound big, but in our estimate, these are still not enough for a country as big as India and as vast and wide as India, and diverse, if I may say so. So we have more than 30 million plus candidates trained through grant-based and fee-based schemes. And I think some of you or many of you would have heard about the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana and the NAPS program. So the PMKVY was born mainly to allow, people, I wouldn't say children or students, but people from all walks of life and every part of the country to participate in the skill ecosystem. So these are short-term programs where you get a flair of really what training is all about. So if I may just give you a little background, when we started training way back in 2006-07, we went with a lovely scheme and we said, oh, now we are going to change India. We are going to change, how Skill India looks. But when we reached the destination of a rural, district or a block, we realized that people were not interested in training. I think we were living in a different world. So that's when we started realizing that we need to build also programs that are more accepted by everybody and what is required at that block level. So that's what we did with PMKVY, and you see the success today of PMKVY, which actually promotes lifelong learning, upskilling and reskilling. So it is for all walks of life. Like today I want to learn something that I have not learned, I can get into a PMKVY course and get a certificate and also understand what really lies in it. And the NAPS, I think, is a wonderful initiative that the government of India has taken, where, like Dr. Agarwal was talking about, multiple entry, exit. So internships is a big, big role that we have within the system, though it doesn't come into NAPS, but NAPS is something that the government has allowed industry to walk in and also get an incentive. So with NAPS, you get industry exposure for a year, for 6 months, and I think it's a very flexible course which is now digitally, underpinned by technology, and there is very less paperwork is what we used to understand from industry. So if you look at the increase of 25% in income for RPL post-NAPS, so people who are already in the system are also getting into NAPS and getting an advantage. And there's a 15% higher average monthly income that is there. So what happens with these fee-based and grant-based programs is that there is 75% more, they are more prepared for the current employment, there's 75% improved technical skills, 77% improved soft skills, and 79% increased confidence of getting employed. So this is something, an impact study that we've done. These are not numbers that we have crunched. These are impact studies that we have taken through the years and come up to see what we can better with the schemes that we have. Now, this is a very, I think, acceptable and relevant quote for us that our Modi ji has given us. So you will have to upgrade your skills in line with the future. Therefore, your mantra should be skilling, reskilling, and upskilling. So that's what we are looking towards now. So today's discussion is mainly on future skills. Now I'm coming to an IIT and talking about future skills. So most of you must be saying, we already know future skills. Why do we need to hear about future skills? But I must tell you, there are a lot of people within our country who are still waiting for that future skill to be exposed to them. They don't have the luxury of being in an IIT or an IIM or one of the institutes of eminence. So how do they fit into the system? So I'm not getting into really what future skills are, because you know what future skills are. But why we are working on future skills is to provide that opportunity to the many who cannot afford an education or cannot be accepted into an institute of eminence. So we understand that technology is going to drive our world very soon. And the largest, the roles that we are going to perform will be in technology, digitalization, and sustainability. Now, there are many in the, universe and in the universe of India who say that how do we fit into these? Who's going to introduce this to us? Today we are talking of PMQVY, which is short-term skills. But there are many who have passed maybe their graduation and want to get into another world of technology. So we will now look at those areas where future skills is something that is going to become a mandatory skill for us. So we see, this is a report that has come from the World Economic Forum, where if you look at the kind of skills that they're talking about, it is no more just hands-on skills. It is creative thinking, analytical thinking, technological literacy, curiosity and lifelong learning. So I'm not getting into all of this, but how do we build these? We can only build these when we start actually concentrating on the cohort we are looking at. What is industry looking at, and where is the universe that will fit into it? So we are looking at, skills which is going to be important in the next 5 years. How do we introduce problem solving? So that is why we are looking at integration of vocational education into schools. We need to prepare children. Why can't children have a lab which is akin to an IIT? Why can't they be introduced to labs which are like in IITs? So I think that's where our journey starts. We are starting with the school education system to introduce the skills of tomorrow. So when we say lifelong learning, a global citizenship, today it is not that we are going to work in India forever. There are a lot of, I think, us who are now planning to go out, who want to fit into the world. So what is the world looking at? We need to start looking at what the world wants from us. It is the universe that we are looking at. So we are looking at a lot of global citizenship, that is, we are talking to countries to say, how do we fit your standards into ours? We know they have some good standards. We need to learn from them. So now, since our topic was inclusive growth, I said, how do we fit future skills into the inclusive growth conversation? So we all know what is social inclusion. So it's improving the terms on which individuals and groups take part in society, the opportunity and the dignity of those disadvantaged, which, if you look at it, our short-term skill programs are providing for us right now. Now, in terms of inclusive growth, it is again, getting a society out where there is equal distribution of wealth, of knowledge, and there is opportunity for all. So, and what is inclusive TVET? So I think this is very interesting, because here we are looking at from the learner's point of view. That is why when we are developing our schemes, there's a lot of feedback from the learner's side as well. So we, in India, we talk very little about learner-centric development or learner-centric vocational education especially, because they are the ones who are going to be, performing the training that they've done. So we are looking, when we talk of inclusive TVET, so that's what we are looking at, a learner-centric vocational education. So these are some of the facts and figures we have. Now, if you look at inclusive growth, we are not all there. So the gross enrollment ratio of the indigenous communities in higher education and senior secondary level is lower than the national ratio, indicating their preparedness for lower level jobs. So how do we uplift this society? Is it that they haven't received the opportunity, or is it that we are not getting the kind of learning that they would be prepared for? What is their education level? So I think there is a lot of study that needs to be done at this level as well. And if you look at the SC/ST communities, those who are below the poverty line, so they need a very focused intervention on skilling and education to bring them out of poverty. So vocational education, we started off saying that it is good for the country. But if you look at inclusiveness, I think this is one area which will bring us to inclusiveness. So then participation and access to higher education in the case of PWDs is very low, indicating societal, physical, and infrastructural barriers for them to access education and training. So this is what we are talking about, learner-centric. Now we want to understand what the learner wants. We are not going to take out schemes and take out programs which we think is good and going to be a mass-scale program. We would look at programs which are inclusive to every learner, where they benefit. So what are the barriers that we look at right now in Tibet? Why are we not being able to bring in that inclusiveness that's required? So there are labor market challenges. We have skills mismatch. I think that is, it's become like an old proverb now. There's a skill gap. The industry wants something and the supply side is providing something. The supply demand doesn't match. But are we doing something for it? There is a lot that has been done, but I think there's a lot that needs to be done more. So we are looking at outdated curricula still. I mean, it's a colossal task. You know, you need maybe sometimes 6 months to make just one curricula, and while the industry is rushed to the other side already. So how do we bring in these, how do we fill in these gaps? And there is an information asymmetry. So even today, when I have to make a simple presentation, I don't have a lot of labor market data. I don't have a lot of education data. I don't have a lot of data to say that what was the program, what was the impact of the program at a certain block. So I think information is something that we need to really work on. And as a country, we need to strengthen that system that we have. So while, if you look at it, there is industry which is racing at a pace, but we are not being able to provide that information to them as well to say how many people have we skilled really, how many are in the education level, which level. So I think there are all these finer points that we need to really start working on. We have financial barriers also as well. I'm not going to get into that. These are issues which are still fundamental to our societies. We have language barriers. We know that NEP is going to fill those gaps. Socio-cultural barriers. We have gender norms and practices. Now, in the morning at the breakfast table, we were discussing as to why does vocational education not hold that esteem still? And I think I gave an example to Professor Gandhi to say, if you see a mechanic, I'd always call the mechanics the doctors of their trade. Without them, the car that we have stranded on the road doesn't move. So if you look at it, I think as a society we need to change. We've taken around 10 to 12 years, a decade and more, to finally come around a room to talk about skill development. So I also mentioned that in 2007, when we were trying to get a skill development conference in place, we didn't have more than 50 people. People didn't think it was a very interesting topic to talk about. So I think we, as a society, we need to change our mindset. We need to start thinking, what is it in for us? What is it in for the country? And what is it in for that individual when that individual is skilled and trained? So we have, again, the curriculum, the physical infrastructure is not right. I think there's still many, many problems and challenges that we are working towards. Now, since I'm sitting in a temple of learning, I thought this would be very interesting for those who are there in the profession. So while we say that the pace of change in new technology means that half of life skills is shrinking fast, today's children will work in jobs that don't even exist yet. And majority of new technology jobs can be done remotely. So rethinking what we teach, I think that's very important. So we have to get children to start being more creative. And as a society, even today, we don't let our children ask questions. We put it in the garb of values and sanskars to say, you don't question your elders, so you don't question your teachers. That might not be in an IIT, but I think there are a lot of areas of learning where we still practice that. Now, technology skills. Okay, I've put an example of data science, but I think just using digital learning, I think that's also going to be very important for us. Interpersonal skills. Do we have the, I think, awareness of saying that how do we speak to the person who's next to us, emotional intelligence, cooperation, and AI ethicist is for, I think, the IITians sitting here. So the number of people being hired as workplace diversity experts increased 64% in 2020. So that's the kind of inclusion also we are looking at. So we would also, now how we teach is maybe get more digitized, get more personalized, experiential learning. We have project-based learning, and then we have bite-sized learning. I don't think we need to rote learn 10 chapters for an exam anymore. We should not. And more immersive learning, which actually harnesses technologies. So we have AR, VR now in our realm, and I think that has actually metamorphosed the way that we learn. So if you look at strategies for inclusive growth through future skills training, I think for future skills, what we say is we need to have very strong industry partnerships and continuous skill need assessments. We need to incorporate experiential learning again, and maintain an agile and adaptable education and training system, and lifelong learning once again. And if you look at inclusion, what does it mean when we have future skills in terms of inclusive learning is we are rethinking how we teach, we are providing accessible learning opportunities, we are providing digital content, we are promoting mentorship and role models, and we are also removing a lot of biases that, a person who's skilled is not good enough for me. That only the person who works with hands, I think, has to be given more dignity of labor, dignity of the job that they do, than, just about people who would like to research and say that, okay, my theories are the best. So I'm not getting into too much of this, but these are some of the programs that we already have running in the country. They are all across the net. You can search for them as well. And there is NSDC Academy also, which is focusing on future skills and vocationalization of education, where we focus on apprenticeship-built education. And most of our candidates get placed after our training. I think that's really the outcome that we look at in a skill program. And this is a very dear proverb, which I have carried with me for decades. So it says, teach your children things other than what you have learned, and prepare them for times different from yours. So I think that's the future that we are looking at. A little hurried presentation, maybe I couldn't really explain myself too well, but we would urge everyone to start looking at how we can serve this generation to fulfill the future needs. And we are at NSDC very open to suggestions, open to hearing new thoughts. So please feel free to also be with us. And it was a very pleasant surprise to hear that IIT is also getting into the vocationalization of education, which will be a boon for our country. And we are collaborating with a lot of IITs as well to look at how future skills can be serviced better and taken to more industries and more parts of India. Thank you very much for your attention. And we'd like you to please collaborate with us, with NSDC, and take the skill ecosystem together as learners, as fulfillers of the ecosystem. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, for an inspirational talk. Now, it's time to felicitate our esteemed speaker. Now, I request Dr. Aditi Helder, Chair MORC Mandi, to felicitate our esteemed speaker, Dr. Neeta Pradhan Das. Dr. Aditi Helder, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Now, I would like to welcome our next esteemed guest, Dr. Rita Sharma, Director, State Council of Educational Research and Training, a distinguished educator and administrator, have a strong background in psychology and education. Her passion for improving educational systems lead her to join the Municipal Council of Educational Research and Training, where she plays a crucial role in the shaping educational policies and programs. Dr. Rita Sharma's extensive knowledge and experience greatly contribute to enhancing teaching and learning processes. She has participated in many international and national seminars and conferences. Let's warmly welcome our esteemed guest on stage for her talk on empowering teachers, unlocking India's potential. Dr. Rita Sharma.
Good morning, everyone. And thank you, Professor Behera, Professor Tushar Jain, IIT Mandi, and I thank all esteemed guests for the wonderful presentations which were done before me. I could say that State Council of Educational Research and Technology is a kind of user department for the schemes which have been explained by Ma'am Agarwal and Ma'am Nita Pradhan. And the other esteemed guests present here, Dr. Manish Jain. He's having a huge teaching learning material help for us, which we are going to utilize for our teachers. Basically, State Council for Educational Research and Training, it has 4 domains of training, content development, pedagogical practices, research and publication. The SCRT has the area of impact, which relates to Directorate of Education in Delhi and Department of Education, Municipal Corporation of Delhi, NDMC, and Delhi Cantonment Board. The schools, number of schools, as you can see, they are 1,053 in Directorate of Education. Number of teachers which we train is 65,000. Number of students which are impacted by these teacher trainers are 1.8 million. And number of mentor teachers, they are 223. Let me a little bit explain about the concept of mentor teachers. When we talk about training, there's a lot of data or a lot of information which is lost in transmission. To minimize that, we developed this concept of mentor teachers, which are capacitated continuously in varied aspects, whether it's pedagogical aspect or content development aspect or other trainings. And they were given 5 to 6 schools at one go. Their responsibility is to help the teachers in these schools to implement various policies of department, to clear the roadblocks from various trainings which they are facing, implementation of the content which is developed, and if there is any suggestion or modification required, they take the views of the teachers and they are then given to the SCRT or policymakers. The same thing is there for the Department of Education and Municipal Corporation of Delhi, NDMC and DCB. The total number of schools are respectively 1,554, 46 and 6. And total number of teachers are approximately 18,947. The number of students, 7,61,726. And the number of mentor teachers is 139. This concept of mentor teachers was initiated in Municipal Corporation some 3 years back, and we are working on that in the same lines which we worked in Directorate of Education. Now, when we are talk about teacher training, we provide 2 types of teacher training. It's pre-service, where we train young students to become future teachers in the schools, whether they are government schools or private schools, or if they want to go for research organizations with this kind of training in education, they can go for that also. And then there is in-service teacher education, where we train already appointed teachers for their continuous professional development. Now, these trainings are child-focused and competency-based training. Because we cater to school education from preschool cohort to up to class 12, so the competencies for various groups are varied, and the training tries to focus on that. Then we promote support, continuous in-service teacher education training through newer interventions of global practices, which I'll elaborate a little later. Then there's an introduction of standard operating procedure to improve overall quality of programs, and alignment between different programs to constantly integrate and strengthen the collective effect of these programs at the classroom level. See, I may be holding a training for teachers in, let's say, POXO, or their departmental rules, or maybe inclusive education, new education policy, Right to Education Act. But then the teachers also need to know what kind of impact it's going to have on their classroom practices and how they can integrate all these interventions into their classrooms. So these have to be collaborated and kind of amalgamated so that teachers can see in totality how it's going to happen in the classrooms. Now, the key interventions of SCRT are teacher competency framework. We create and develop a teacher competency framework so that we know what are the competencies for the teachers which we have to work upon and how we have to design our trainings to foster that. The competency-based training modules are developed, which integrates mindset curriculum also. Now, these mindset curriculums are the new curriculums which have been formulated 3 years back. Two of them I would like to mention here. The first is happiness curriculum, and the other one is entrepreneurship mindset curriculum. The teachers are trained to implement these mindset curriculums in their classrooms. The happiness curriculum basically focuses on students from class 1 to class 8, and entrepreneurship mindset curriculum focuses on students from class 9 to class 12. The idea behind that was when the child is entering a school system, the child is very young, they are coming with their own social, emotional situations which they handle at the school level in a very different way. The teacher also comes with their own social, emotional skills. So how to hone their skills and how to make the classroom a happier place, a joyous place, so that the child can come to school with a smiling face and not with a crying face. So there are several activities which were designed in this happiness curriculum. This is not something which is to be assessed in terms of grades or in terms of marks. It's a curriculum which is more of an activity, story, discussion base, so the child can come forward and have a bondage with the teacher. You see, at the primary level, and especially when the child is starting the school, the emotional bond which it forms with the teacher plays a major role in what the child is going to learn at the school. So keeping all these things in mind, this curriculum was framed and teachers were trained into that. Now, the entrepreneurship mindset curriculum, which reminds me of this Koji box over there, which Dr. Manish is going to explain after a while. It was designed with this thing in the mind, that when a child leaves the school, it should be equipped with some kind of skills which can empower him to take decisions, which can empower him to take failures, and then strive towards success through repeated failures. In this curriculum, we don't teach them entrepreneurship. We just try to integrate the entrepreneurship mindset in the child. For example, under this scheme, the children were given 2,000 rupees of seed money. They were asked to discuss and make groups of 4 to 5 to 6 students at a go. They were encouraged to discuss their ideas. The teachers were trained to pitch the ideas of the students to their neighborhood successful entrepreneurs. For example, it could be a person who has opened an IT repairing shop, maybe mobile repairing shop, and that person is doing very successfully. The that person can, can be called to the school for a live entrepreneur interaction with the children, and they can share how they initially failed and how they succeed. So the child will be encouraged to try their ideas with the seed money which has been given by the government, and when they succeed with that, they'll be learning some other skills also, how to do group work, how to pitch their ideas, how to make a team, how to make their social media presence felt, because there will be a group member who is good at social media and will take care of the things related to that. There will be a member who is, articulate and will pitch the idea to the teachers or to the district level authorities. And then the whole, this mindset curriculum things that culminated into a Business Blaster program, which some of you might have seen last year on television. Some episodes were telecasted. And here I'll share one success story of one student. The teacher has asked them to discuss the concept with their family members. Like, some of the students are having family members which are good at some skill or the other. Maybe they are traditional skills, like Dr. Pradhan said, and traditional knowledge which can be transformed into these ideas. So one child was discussing this idea with the grandfather, and the grandfather said that in our days we used to make a coffee kind of beverage, but without using coffee. How was that made? They will use date seeds, roast them, powder them, will use special kind of technology or special kind of process for that, and mix it with honey and lemon, and then a kind of beverage was prepared. And when the child tried the same kind of thing in his class, the idea was a hit. The idea was pitched at the district level, and then at the state level, everybody liked the idea. And during the Business Blaster program, this date coffee, it was renamed as Mystic Dates, and the idea was pitched to the investors, and the child got more than 1 lakh rupees of investment. All because the teacher encouraged the child to try, to focus on the things which are not part of the curriculum, didn't criticize them when they failed, look around their surroundings for the people who are successful. That person can be a small shopkeeper who was having nothing to begin with and then started his business journey. Like we called Ashoka University co-founder also. We called people from Zomato, how the idea was germinated. So the teachers and students, they interacted with them, the queries were there, but only one thing was constant: motivation and will to succeed despite failures. So those skills were essential, and I was glad that we could integrate some of the skills in the students. And when they stepped out in the outside world, apart from, outside the umbrella of their school system, they were not afraid to experiment. So that kind of training for all mindset curriculums was provided, so that school can be a safe place, a joyous place to experiment, to learn, to fail, to rise up again, and then to succeed. And go out accessorized with these skills, which are essential to succeed as a human being. Now, to instill this kind of motivation in the teachers, it was necessary that they should be given some kind of exposure or sharing of best practices in other states also. If we stay cocooned in our own success stories or in our own ideas, we will not be able to learn. So several exposure trips were planned, nationally as well as internationally. Maybe in the next slide we can discuss about that, so that these stakeholders can learn from other stakeholders and then implement the best practices in their classrooms. Again, the standard operating procedure for these were charted, monthly calendars to align with Directorate of Education activities and SCRT activities. And the trainings were, impact of trainings was assessed with using exit tickets, so that we can assess the quality of trainers also. We can assess whether we need to modify our trainings, we can assess what the teacher has learned. Now there is a STEP program which is designed for reaching the classroom directly. The faculty from SCRT, they visit the classrooms with an observation form, and feedback from classroom observations are channeled back into the system so that we can modify our trainings and the skills of teachers are honed again and again. Now this competency framework developed for teacher training of the general pedagogy focuses on, there are several subjects which are taught at the school level. So it is necessary that we equip them with some general pedagogy and some subject-specific pedagogy. So general pedagogy focuses on individual child's need, how to address to that, different cohorts which are present in a classroom. The students are at a different learning level, their learning outcomes are different. Then how a teacher can associate all this into a single classroom experience. And then we come to subject-specific exposure visits and subject-specific trainings. We found that if we only train teachers, then the impact is not that much. The HOS, head of the school, or the principal has also to be trained. Their view should also be about, what can be done in the school, and they should also be exposed to several national or international best practices. So in that endeavor, the picture you're seeing here is one of the group of principals visiting Cambridge University, Judge Business School, for their leadership skills and help them provide a framework of core competencies which they can utilize as school leaders. A good school leader can only lead good teachers, and then if the teachers are driven and motivated, then only they can perform well in the classroom. Now we organize these visits not only for principals in Cambridge and in IIM Ahmedabad also, but for the teachers also. For example, with IIT Mandi itself, we had collaborated with science and mathematics teachers. We sent 2 groups, and then based on their feedback, we are again in talks with IIT Mandi, how the program for future groups can be designed. What are the hard spots which the teacher find difficult to address in the classroom? What they can learn here from the subject experts or from the technological innovations which are there in IIT Mandi. Yesterday we visited Tinkering Lab here in the campus, and we were glad to see there were several innovative scientific toys which can be used in the classroom. So we were planning to have a group of teachers who can visit the lab, and then they can also toy with these ideas, and they can also explore the innovative mechanisms which have been developed by the students over there. Similarly, IIT Gandhinagar, this Khoji box was very much appreciated by our teachers. Again, mathematics and science, these are 2 subjects where the students falter most at the board examination levels, and at the upper primary and middle school level, they find these 2 subjects which are very difficult. So we thought that these are the subjects which need to be tackled first. The teachers who are teaching maths or science need to be skilled first in what they have learned so far. Not that they are not good teachers, but what else they can do, what better skills they can acquire. So what better place than to IITs and IIMs? Similarly, TIS Mumbai was also roped in for teaching various ways of basic concepts which may seem easy to an adult, but when we look from the point of view of a 7 or 8-year-old child or a 13 or 14-year-old student, they are quite difficult how to tackle those concepts. So the teachers were skilled in mathematical concepts, let's say division using 0, decimal, fractions, different shapes, how to measure the area, perimeter, and how to transmit this to a child in a child-friendly language so that the maths is no longer a difficult subject for them. We have seen during our school experience that most of the students when the opportunity comes in class 11th, almost 50% of the students, they leave mathematics. And though we are having 52% of total girl students in our schools, if you look at the percentage of girl students having science and mathematics in class 11th and 12th, that's abysmally low. So we are hoping that these subject-specific trainings, the skilling of teachers at premier technological institutes with interaction with their faculty and with the TLMs which they have designed, we would be able to address this problem. And if the child is trying to study something else apart from maths and science, at least the concept to the level the child studies are clear to him or her. Now, apart from the skilling of teachers, we skill teachers and faculty of SCRT and DIETS in documentation and content development. During the Corona period, the usual textbooks were of no use because students and teachers were not in touch. So special worksheets were designed which can be transmitted to the parents or students through WhatsApp, so the children can attend at home and can be in touch with the teacher or teaching learning process to the extent possible. Because Directorate of Education caters to students who are not from very endowed economical conditions. So it was an attempt that these worksheets will keep the students in touch with their regular teaching learning process in some way or the other. So the teachers were trained in the content development to upgrade or modify the existing technologies which they were using, their existing ways in which they were teaching, and how to reach to the students, how to conduct a class on the WhatsApp, how to integrate ICT in their usual classroom. And when the students come back for the regular classroom transaction after the Corona period, the scene was entirely different. Students were out of practice to study for 5 hours in the classroom, to listen to the teachers, or their writing skills, they were badly hampered. So again, the skilling process was revamped. The teachers were trained how to use ICT skills, how to develop e-content. If the child is still not able to come to the class, how to deliver that e-content to the child, and how to, the skills of writing innovative lesson plans which can be based on multidisciplinary approach, especially for the primary segment of the students. Because a mathematics lesson or a language lesson is associated with social studies also, is associated with science also. Along with that, the research skills were also motivated, and the teachers were involved into that, so that the findings from their research can be channeled back into their training programs. Now, NEP signifies the importance of skilled teacher, role of educators and training institutes as mentors and inspiration for student skill development. But the challenges we face during teacher training or for teacher training are, their efforts should be acknowledged, their contribution should be acknowledged. And what I found, that there are certain skills or certain vocational courses which are looked down upon, which the esteemed speakers before me have also addressed to. And I was just discussing with them that when we were trying to organize an orientation program for specially able students, students with special needs, we were not able to find good trainers or master trainers who can train our teachers how to teach these students, or for multidisciplinary cross-disability trainings. So this issue needs to be addressed, and I think the teachers should have a voice. For that, the pre-service reforms were taken care of, And we tried that they should be given as much hands-on training as possible before they go into the classrooms. Initially, during the pre-service reform, there were only 3 months of training program in the classroom situation. That has now been like a draft is being prepared to increase that to 6 months. And we are trying to rope in private schools also, because we are not preparing teachers only for government schools. We are preparing them for special education institutes also. We are preparing them for research institutes also. We are preparing them for private schools also. Now the way forward which I would like to discuss here is to provide regular training sessions, workshops, webinars to help teachers update their teaching methodologies, which is the need of the hour, keeping in mind the rapid changes happening in the wake of NEP and ICT field. Encourage innovations like this Koji box which we are having. We are hoping that our teachers will also be encouraged and motivated to try innovations on their own. Provide support to teachers, supportive working environment, psychological support, like I said, happiness curriculum. When we were training teachers, we found an effect that when they are doing happiness activity with the students, the teachers themselves are also calmed. The emotional baggage they might have carried from the trauma from some family situation, they were able to cope up with that in a better way. And finally, give teachers a voice during policy decisions, during content development, during textbook development, or during discussions or forums like this. I would have been happy if some teachers would have also been invited to share their views from the ground. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for an informative talk. Now, it's time to felicitate our esteemed guest. For the felicitation, I request ABM Pranav Sinha, Vishisht Seva Medal, a strategic advisor, SRIC IIT Mandi, to come to the stage and honor Dr. Rita Sharma, Director, NCERT. Thank you, sir. Now it's time to take a break. After the break, we will resume our next session with a very interesting demonstration by Professor Manish Jain, Head Center of Creating Learning, IIT Gandhinagar. I would like to invite all the dignitaries and the audience for a cup of tea outside the auditorium, and after 15 minutes, we will resume our next session. Thank you all.
Hello.